So, stating your opinion for a movie nowadays has pretty much become like a political debate. Like the arguments that people have for The Last Jedi or the arguments that they have against The Last Jedi, to me, are more interesting than The Last Jedi. And it's not that you can't be like strongly opinionated on a movie, whether you love it, whether you hate it. That's cool. But I've never really been interested in like people saying that they love a movie, that they hate a movie. I've always been more interested in why. Like, how did it affect you, right? Like, for me, I know it's not a very popular opinion, but I never really dug Boyhood because I felt like, not that it was a gimmick, not that it's a bad movie, but other franchises have done the same thing with keeping the same actors. On top of that, the boy whose Boyhood we're looking at ain't that good of an actor. Like, do you guys know any other movies that he's in? Because I know of one, and he wasn't that good. So I decided to ask you guys on Twitter what is your most unpopular film opinion, what hot takes you guys have, and some of y'all going to hell. So a lot of people had mentioned that Lady Bird was just meh. It wasn't worth the Oscar talk. And I'll say, it being a movie about like moms and stuff, and me being a mama's boy, I just saw bits of it the other day. I liked the movie a lot, but I can get that. I think, maybe it's not for everyone, but as a person who did not like Greta Gerwig for a long time, I did not like her movies, definitely didn't like her in 20th Century Woman. I like Lady Bird. Adam Sandler is a great actor. He just needs the right materials to work with. 1000% yes. For me, it would definitely be Punch Drunk Love and the new Netflix one, The Merowitz Stories. To me, those are some of the best movies that he has ever done, and it shows that the dude can freaking act. Like, I think comedians, and this is a saying that's been out there for the longest time, if comedians have that in them to be dramatic actors. Kristen Wiig is another actress that I can think of who can go from a comedy to a drama and just knock it out of the park. The problem with Adam Sandler is that this dude likes going on vacations and then calling that movies to be able to get a write-off on his taxes. Avatar: The Last Airbender was a great movie. I asked for unpopular opinions, not sacrilegious ones. The Florida Project is worse than The Bye Bye Man and The Snowman combined. Look, it wasn't in my top 10 or anything, but I thought The Florida Project was done pretty well, and especially there's a movie at Sundance. If you did not like The Florida Project, you are definitely not going to like a movie called We the Animals that came out at Sundance this year. That movie is fantastic. I think if you like The Florida Project, you're going to dig the style of this one, but if you didn't, I guess I got your worst of the year. Die Hard ain't the best action film. It ain't even top 10. I'm not the biggest fan of Die Hard, and by that I don't mean that it's a bad movie. I'm just not on that like holy grail, like that dude from The Office who told everyone that they needed to watch Die Hard. For me, those would be the Raid movies. Like if you were to say that the Raid movies are not top 10, then we have a problem. There was a bunch of people who said that Black Panther was meh, Wonder Woman was overrated. A lot of these two movies being meh to absolutely no good, and I'll say I liked Black Panther, right? I don't think it is like top 5 Marvel movies. To me, it's like 6 or 7. I liked the movie. Wonder Woman, not so much. But I get it. When it's one of those things where we go back to the opinions, that if people were to mention their opinion on a movie that's, big for the culture, that a lot of people are looking down on them and saying that, it's more than a movie. When in reality, movies are just movies. The Dark Knight Rises over... No, whoa. The Dark Knight is way more than just a movie. Basketball is one of the most underrated films of all time. That is true. If you have not seen Basketball, then let this video be your recommendation, your blockbuster host letting you know you gotta check out Basketball. Some of you had hate on Annihilation and on Arrival. I made videos on both of these, and I'm not saying that you gotta love the movies, but Arrival to me ain't that special. Arrival to me, again, I made a video on it, but bro, the moment you figure out what the title in Arrival means, and for both movies, but in Arrival, it's not special. Brave is Pixar's worst movie. I would say it's the most boring movie. Worst movie will always go to Cars 2. Ang Lee's Hulk is actually pretty good. I like The Incredible Hulk, even though I think you're not supposed to. Thor Ragnarok is one of the many Marvel films that blend into one. It was fun, but there's no. No. I've said this in multiple videos. Maybe I need to make another video about this, but so much happens in Thor Ragnarok, and people just talk about it being a comedy, that Thor doesn't go through things. Y'all seen that new trailer. My man doesn't have an eye. What do you... Danny Villeneuve's films after Enemy are just okay. Alien 3 over Alien. Hook is Spielberg's best film. Dunkirk is Nolan's worst. X-Men Apocalypse Overload. And you call yourself Oscar? I'm just kidding. Oscar's actually a pretty good guy. But out of these, I disagree with every single one. Enemy is actually my favorite Denis Villeneuve film, but I still think he's making really good films. I actually did see a sequel to one of his movies that I'm not allowed to mention yet. The train keeps going. And as far as Apocalypse Over Logan, of course there was a bunch of Star Wars ones, and everybody has differing opinions on Star Wars and Star Wars. For me, to me the worst one is Clones. I don't care for that one. And the best, obviously, is Revenge of the Empire. It's Empire. Of course, there was a bunch of other ones dealing with Quentin Tarantino, some saying what is best, what are his underrated ones. I've felt this for a long time. I think Inglourious Basterds is his best one. I think it's his masterpiece, and I think he thinks the same thing, because he literally ends the movie by looking into the camera, having a character look into the camera and say, I think this is my masterpiece. For me, my favorite is Django. I think it's the most quotable. I think it's the most fun, not for the slave reasons, but I think it's just one of the wittiest written run. That's how good it is. It's one of the wittiest written ones, and I love the characters in it. As far as this little one right here about Jack Nicholson over Heath Ledger's Joker, bro, it's Mark Hamill's Joker all the way. Colton had some pretty sinful ones by saying Dunkirk is Nolan's worst film, The Force Awakens is the best Star Wars, Arrival is Villeneuve's least ambiguous complex venture, Inside Out doesn't crack the top half of Civil War easily ranks among the In Matthew 18, Jesus says to forgive your brother 70 times 7 times. Sir, you have wasted 6 of yours. Call Me By Your Name is overrated.
No.
La La Land, shrug emoji.
No.
Mad Max Fury Road is overrated.
No.
Look, I like all 3 of these. I know that Call Me By Your Name can be a little slow in the beginning, but I've said it. Timothée Chalamet, he acts through the credits. I wanted the Oscar to go to him. In terms of La La Land, I love the musical numbers in it. I love the opening song. I love that theme. And Mad Max Fury Road is a cinematic masterpiece. I've yet to watch a Coen Brothers film with a satisfying ending. That's kind of true, though. Fellowship of the Rings is the worst of the trilogy, and Lord of the Rings is too long and boring. Look, I am not, that is one fan base I am not messing with at all. Interstellar isn't that great. Blade Runner isn't that great either. I don't care about Star Wars at all. Man, what did space ever do to you? There was some flack going up against my uncle, some for The Shape of Water. Another one saying that Alejandro González Iñárritu's last 2 films were not Best Picture worthy. And Emmanuel Lubezki isn't as good of a DP as people say. Sir? All of these actually go into threads, so someone responded to my boy Tyrell by saying, do you have explanations to either of those claims? Get them, girl. Obviously, I'm a fan of them, right? I definitely don't think Emmanuel Lubezki is a hack. I love my man. He's my cousin. Alejandro González Iñárritu, however, I get it, right? Because my man went from going like what is considered a gimmick to a lot of people, all one long take. Then he does the thing with all natural light. And then his last thing, like I covered in my previous video, was all VR. But I like that he's taking all of those chances, right? They may not be the best films of the year to some people, but I think what he does, the way that he tries to master his craft, I think it's admirable. And definitely I think Guillermo deserved that Oscar this year. Pixels isn't that bad. I do think it's not a great movie. But the other day, my girlfriend and I actually celebrated 6 years of being together. And we went to this little place right here that was like all Pac-Man based. And for a second, I was actually thinking about, wouldn't it be cool if they made a movie where like all these video game things came to and that was Pixels. The Shrek franchise is an allegory on the dangers of capitalism and the importance of revolutions. Facts. Those were just some of the hot takes that you guys gave me over on Twitter, and I think the point still stands. The point that I'm trying to get here is that it's fine if you don't like something. Like, whether you hate something, whether you love something, the whole point is how can you back it up, right? Like, there's been an increase in this overabundance of hate, and like Marvel and DC fans act like freaking Republicans and Democrats. You got, the people who are for indies and the people who are for blockbusters acting like the freaking Hutus and Tutsis. I personally don't think that anyone, any filmmaker goes into a movie going, you know what? I want to make a bad movie today. I think that, they know that there's an audience for it and they're trying to give that audience what they want, even if it's pandering sometimes. I think that even if it may not be for everyone, that person is making something that they like. I highly doubt that they're doing something just because they hate it. Of course, money comes into the picture and stuff like that, but for the most part, I think that there's an audience for every movie, even the ones that we hate, right? But it's gone to the point where I think many times we get so personal with them, right? Because that's what movies do. Many times you have a movie that you overwatch, you relate to it, you connect to it. It's so engraved in your DNA that when someone says they don't like that movie, what you're hearing is, I don't like you. Which, to be fair, maybe they didn't like you before the movie came out. Honestly, I think the beauty of movies is that it varies from person to person, right? Like, why I love Whiplash is the reasons why other people hate it, right? There are movies which I hate, and those things that I hate about that movie is why somebody else connects with it. And that's the whole point, right? Whether you love something, whether you hate something, it's all about explaining why you love it. And I'll link down the thread for this Twitter thing, because a lot of the people who had these hot takes, they defend them. Others tried to defend them, but I love having these film discussions, right? Even music discussions, whatever it is, having a discussion and getting varying opinions, even if they don't agree with you at all. If they can bring up sound points, and I think it's worth having. So head on over to the A to Z Show Twitter, where I'll be doing some of these, whether they're like polls, main question, themed questions, stuff like that. And maybe I'll be making like a Friday video for these, like bi-weekly videos on this. I'll still be doing like the 2 main A to Z themed videos where I edit them more, but kind of to have a discussion with you guys, maybe something that I'll start doing, post them up on Fridays as an extra 3rd video for the week. But other than that, I'm curious to know your guys' thoughts on this video. Let me know down below in the comment section. Don't forget, The Godfather 2 is better than The Godfather 1.
And then like it's kind of ruined the movie experience for me, because I honestly didn't really like Godfather 1. Not because the movie's too long. Like I said, Surika, love that shit.
Sir,
it's just...
You did not like The Godfather 1?
No. I think it's a good movie.
Have you seen The Godfather 2?
Oh, I loved it.
Okay. You can say on the stream. I was about to say.